Okay, maybe 30%, 25 to 30%. How many people here are actually looking at RSS feeds? Okay, how many people don't know what an RSS feed is? Okay, there's a few. Okay, a few more hands. All right, so there are many, many, many tools, okay, and everybody may want to, many people will want to interact with your company in a different way. Okay, so some will be happy with dealing with, interacting with a blog. Somebody may just want to come and see your website, which is kind of like your static advertising. One of the reasons that people like blogs better is because content has changed more often, and search engines like changing content. So if you're into search engine optimization, it's a little bit better this way. I really will recommend, again, read this book, because it talks about, people and different, by gender, by country, by age, they react and use these tools in a different way. And this is the beginning of measuring how people interact with this. And so as part of your strategy, when you're thinking about who you're trying to interact with, you need to kind of understand whether they're going to respond to a particular social media tool or not. But I will concur with whoever down there said it takes a lot of time, okay, investment. Once you begin to have this conversation, you really need to stay with it, okay, because people come back because of content and useful, valued content. But on the other hand, there is no cost of exit either. So if it doesn't work out with you, for you, you can shut this thing down. But as a final note, once you begin, if people are looking for you, they're going to Google you, and if the last thing entry they find in Google is 2007, they're going to think you're gone.
I really want to meet the person who said that the website era is over, but I will tell you that your website is your storefront. You can have sales teams out and about telling the world why you matter, and that's what social media is perfect for. But everybody needs a home to go to, and I think that if we took a survey, the 100 last things that you purchased in your life, when someone told you about it, the first place that you went was the website, and that was proof of existence, correct? Websites aren't going anywhere anytime soon.
Last question. This week a press release was issued from Cenotech. I don't know if you know that life science company. It's up in Napa, California. And to quote, on advice from the corporate counsel, a red flag right there, all future communications from the company will be exclusively from press releases, SEC filings, and from shareholder conferences. This certainly isn't press release worthy. I'm not sure why they sent that press release out. But it's obviously in response to social media where employees were twittering and putting things on their Facebook and so on. And so I think the question, it begs the question, are we going to see a real contraction in the corporate world, in the life science companies, of not allowing employees to be out there spreading the word? And how do you suggest a company deals with internal communications like that? You want to start?
Okay. I would tell you that your employees are going home and having dinner with friends and family and telling them everything that's going on at work. So if you think that just because there's a social media channel for them to chat, that things are going to change, not the case. But what you can do is set the ground rules. Decide what subjects are not to be discussed. Instead of calling corporate counsel and firing someone, give them the rules at the advance. That's part of the HR policy. These are the things. You could talk about how hard your day was at work. You're not allowed to talk about things that are in clinical trials. Set the stage, defend the rules, and every single employee will understand and act accordingly.
I would say that if you have a company, you need to establish best practices for your company. You have to. It's just the way that people communicate now has changed, and it's a lot more public. It's a lot more fluid. Thinking back to not that long ago, if somebody had a gripe with a magazine, right? Maybe somebody, an editor published an article that somebody didn't like, what would happen? Well, maybe if I'm offended, I fire off an angry letter to the editor, and maybe the editor will republish it, but for the most part, nobody's going to know about that letter. Now here's the difference with social media. Nobody's going to fire off a letter to the editor of the magazine. They're going to go straight to Facebook. They're going to go straight to Twitter. People are going to pick up on it. And in less than an hour, it's going to spider all over the web. You have to contain these things or devise ways or strategies to keep them from blowing up in the first place, but it also gives us an opportunity to counter them. So what does that mean for an actual company? Well, if you have a disgruntled employee that had a bad day, maybe they give away some secrets or they say some things that makes the company look bad, you want to address that ahead of time. So best practices are very important because you can't stop people from talking.
There's a cautionary tale I have to add to this. There's a company that I worked for once upon a time, and they wanted to stay in stealth mode and not have, they didn't want any, they weren't releasing any information about themselves, no press releases, you know, they didn't have a website, even just sort of a basic one. And there were essentially no mentions of the name of their company anywhere on the internet until I started working for them. And then strange things happened, and now all of a sudden, if anyone is looking for this company that I no longer work for anymore, they find me, and that shouldn't happen to any business.
I would go along with Sasha and say, look, you know, this is happening. This is it, to me, it sounds kind of funny. This is like the reinvention of the printing press. Okay, think back what happened when the fax machine came around. You know, it started, and then all of a sudden, you know, it blossomed, and arguably it's what brought down the Soviet Union. So this social media thing, this conversation is a fundamental shift in the way everybody talks. Okay, and we all chat at home, at lunch, whatever. I mean, you wouldn't take the telephone away from your staff people, you know, during work hours and say, hey, you can't talk to anybody. So what really is important is, just like Sasha says, that they understand the rules. You know, what can be said and what shouldn't be said, and you go forward and you try and leverage the power of this because. Not only can social media help people connect with customers, but internally it will help your people find information, okay, that you need. And if you look at statistically, somewhere between 15 and 30% of all you know, work time is lost in searching for information. So social media is a way, okay, that your own employees can connect with other people, either within your company or elsewhere, to find the information and actually save you money. So you want to find a way to leverage this, and there are enterprise social media tools that are out there that provide the security. And I just read something the other day that CIOs, okay, you know, across industries are trying to, you know, kind of pull back on the social media. So if your CIO is trying to do this, you need to sit them down and say, no, 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 we want to be more open. You know, we don't want to go back, you know, to the Cold War era.
Yes, and if you have the kind of presence in social media that you should have, a stray comment by an employee here or there is going to be lost in all of the content that you're putting out that you want people to see. So, you know, trying to clamp it down is just going to make the things that you didn't want to get out and did be the only things that are there. So you have to take a proactive approach and put out what you want to be seen. That's the way to go.
I think that's true to a large extent. I think we need to realize that pharmaceutical industry is one really bizarre business. There is no other industry in the world where you have to go through a middleman, a medical doctor, so that you can buy a product. I mean, we're more regulated than the gun industry. We're more regulated than any other industry you can imagine. And there are two major events that changed the pharmaceutical industry forever that we're really still trying to come to grips with. First one was direct-to-consumer advertising. It really began in the mid-'80s. And that was a way of trying to bypass the medical doctor for the most part and try and create pull and create a consumer base that was asking about a product rather than being told about products. The second major event, which is, I really think, very germane to this topic, was Biox and Merck & Company in 2003. And in this case, I mean, we're still dealing with lawsuits from a few emails that were exchanged among employees. And so while it's true, you can try and drown out a little bit of signal with a bunch of noise, in terms of liability and regulatory context, it's very difficult. So it's very important what employees say in the context of therapies that they're working on because of the nature of the industry.